Manny here. Just what in the hell do you think you were doing?
I can't believe you!
I'm not reading. I'm just looking at the picture.
Welcome to the cold, hard truth on sports.
Welcome all to another week of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I am your host, Matthew Long. We had a great week. Applauding. Thank you. Okay. All right. Yeah, I see why. Yeah. Okay. New sound effects. They're great. Awesome week to talk about here. College football once again done a wonderful job of changing everybody's outlook on what the hell they thought was going to happen. Let me tell you this: I knew, and then I didn't know anything. It seemed like, I don't know. I had Notre Dame winning in Miami. I don't know what it is about this Miami team. I just have not found a way to have any sort of supreme confidence in the team. And the last 2 weeks, they have, by all accounts, outperformed what they would normally do. Hold on. System's asking for a cable to prevent the show from stopping. But it's amazing to see Miami these last 2 weeks step up and play out of their minds. Is it something that's unusual for Miami as of late? Yeah, absolutely off kilter for what we've seen from the University of Miami lately. Is it something that shouldn't be expected? No, not at all. It's a program that is in a hotbed of talent. And this has been the argument of Canes fans and pretty much everybody since Howard Schnellenberger came through there and showed everybody that you can win in a small private school in Coral Gables. So it's not surprising at all that they win. But the thing is, when Miami starts winning, usually shortly thereafter are sanctions, fines, suspensions, investigations, all the stuff, the shins, you don't want to hear about when it comes to a program. Clearly, the Baylor University is struggling with their own mishaps there too. It's just not able to keep up or maintain any sort of standard they had at one time, given the amount of sanctions and stuff that they're under, and pending sanctions that they're under, rather. So, it's always good. I say it's always better. College football is better when you can have those classic teams like Miami, like Florida State, like Nebraska, like USC, like Texas, like Notre Dame in it and being competitive. Up until this weekend, Notre Dame has looked competitive in every single game. It's one thing, like Brett Kelly seems to struggle with some of these fast-paced offenses. So I'll delve into that a little bit later in the game. We will, once again, as we do every week this time of year, we'll be announcing the top 25 of the college football playoff poll, as well as kind of discussing the top 10 in greater depth as well. I get into a little bit of boxing tonight. We've had a poll out, okay? I did want to touch on this real quick, just so I didn't forget. We've had a few people send it out and share it with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is the promoter, founder of Matchup Boxing, Matchup Promotions. Get it for me. I wanted to say the right thing. Matchup Promotions. Yeah, of Matchup Promotions. He was in New York. He was talking with one of the blogs that cover boxing. He was talking with an individual on the streets of New York, and he was like, "Hey, listen, one of the big problems with making a fight with Deontay Wilder is people don't know who he is. You can't go on the streets of the UK, especially in London, and say, hey, you ask somebody who's Anthony Joshua. 9 out of 10 people are going to tell you exactly who he is. He has name recognition there. And I've said that's one of his major problems. People don't know who the hell he is. If people know who you are, they don't care to know why they should pay attention to you. If the Kardashians have done anything right, people pay attention to them for whatever stupid reason. He could take a page out of that book. I honestly think it would be a great move if he could find a way to hook up with Courtney, because I think she's the single one now. Or is it Chloe? Is it Chloe? No, Chloe's dating who? Oh, Tristan Thompson. God. And Kendall Jenner's a bit too young. I think she's like 21. So she's 21? Something like this. She's barely legal. But Courtney, just for a little bit, just being seen in public a couple dates. That's all it really needs. Go a couple dates with Courtney just to get some pictures. It doesn't even have to be anything. It could just be spotted with her, so people can talk about is it or isn't it. So they ask who you are. Again, his publicist, I don't know what the guy does. I literally don't know what the guy does. So the week of this fight, which is just recently, just last weekend, Wilder fights. And not this weekend, last weekend. Just last weekend. There's a weekend before last. Is that the proper way? Adjust that, please. Thanks. He fights against Vern, knocks him out in the first round. Literally 2 minutes and 59 seconds. Literally a second before the bell. He was a second away from being saved by the bell. Literally. Stavern was, and knocked him unconscious. So it wasn't a debate. Could he have? He wasn't standing for an 8 count at all. Knocked him down 3 times in the first round. Stavern threw a total of 4 punches and didn't land them. 2 jabs, 2 power punches. And just so people are clear, that may not follow boxing, jabs are a jab. Self-explanatory. Straight. Depending on your stance, it's that straight. It's the forehand. It's a straight forehand. Punching forward. That's the jab. And basically any other punch that is not the jab is considered a power punch. and then you break down of what kind of power punch. Was it a hook? Was it a cross? Was it an overhead lead? What was it? From there. But they generally say jabs versus power punches. Where did they land? To the head, to the body? Where are they landing? So that's the kind of the breakdown of that there. He came in 15 pounds heavier, talking about Stavern. Didn't look enthusiastic once he got in the ring. I don't know if he was just trying to feel out the first round to get into the later rounds, or if he didn't want to be there. He was very anticlimactic. I didn't see him really coming out like he was going to win or get anything. Again, the guy's been out of boxing for basically since the last fight against Wilder. Again, I have lots of questions when it comes back to these boxing rankings. I don't know how the WBC ranks Bermain Stavern as the number one challenger. He was the number one challenger. So Wilder could take one other fight. Oh, excuse me. To take one other fight. Yeah, give me those Boxer of the Month honorary mentions. Give me that. Does it have the rankings? Yeah, the WBC rankings. Yep. Can you put those up on the screen? Thanks. What's this? Okay. Yeah, I've taken issue with him. I generally keep an eye on him, just to kind of see what kind of wool it's trying to pull over people's eyes. Most people don't watch the boxing rankings. As you know, every sanctioning body has a system. So the WBC is handing out Boxer of the Month for November to Deontay Wilder. And then the honorable matches doesn't even matter. Yeah, give me the rankings, heavyweights. Yeah. I figured that we're gonna put him. Okay. All right, bear with me here for a minute. I'm just trying to get this. Work with the producer here. Might have a new producer spot open. I'm kidding. Okay, so right now, the WBC says, obviously, the champ is Deontay Wilder. Essentially, the people's champion right now is, that's not right, Vitaly Klitschko's retired. Give me that. What's that? Okay, so it's telling me right now that the silver champion, Dylan White, and the WBC Intercontinental champion, which is vacant. So that could be end up. You could see like Dominique Brazil and Dylan White fight for it. But for all intents and purposes right now, the number one contender for the WBC title is Dylan White. After Bermain Stavern's first round knockout, he falls from the number one contender to 15th. I'm just saying. I'm just looking at some of these names on here. Again, he's suspended. Luis Ortiz is 3. Dominic Brazil is number 2, which I would rather see him fight Dominic Brazil, who Anthony Joshua fought. I want to see him fight Dylan White. I mean, those are definitely 2 guys that he should fight first. Here's the thing. Dylan White is the silver champion. So fighting the WBC silver champion pretty much makes it undisputed and undefeated WBC heavyweight champion. So if you're going to fight the silver champion, and again, you might as well throw the Intercontinental belt in with that fight too. Why not clean house and fight Dylan White? I mean, you're not going to get $7 million to do it. Just get off that. And again, Dominic Brazil would be a quality fight for him. Anthony Joshua has struggled with his stamina, being able to hang in during fights. So again, Dylan White, Dominic Brazil are 2 fights that are good for Wilder's resume. Joshua has the WBA. He has the IBF. Currently, so he has those 2 titles. The WBO is held by Joseph Parker. So that's kind of as far as boxing goes. I see. Hell, let's start talking football. We'll get into football. Don't worry. We'll get into football. You don't have to worry about that. I just wanted to cover a couple boxing things here real quick. Joseph Parker. Again, if you haven't been following boxing, just sit back and listen to what I'm saying. I'm breaking all shit down for you. Chill the hell out, right? Oh, I don't like boxing. I'm an MMA guy. I'm into MMA. I want to see less clothes on my fighter. Less clothes. And that's just it. Jarrell Big Baby Miller just won this past weekend. Pretty convincingly. And he could fight Dylan White next and become the WBC silver champion and the next mandatory for Anthony Joshua. I doubt Miller takes step-side money. So if his people are smart, the 2 guys you want next are either Dylan White or Joseph Parker. If you fight Joseph Parker next for a title, then you're putting yourself in a prime position to have 2 belts, be able to have more leverage in a fight against Joseph Parker. He's undefeated, 24 fights, 18 wins by knockout. His last fight was 2 months ago against Huey Fury. He won by a majority decision. He won though. So here's the thing is, if so many people think Joseph Parker is the low-hanging fruit, why aren't people making it happen? mean, go to New Zealand. Go work that out. Here's another smart one for you. You want to work out. You want to work out making some money. Hey, Anthony Joshua, take the fight with Tyson Fury or again. Not Dominic Brazil. Take the fight against Tyson Fury again, or someone other than Joseph Parker. Again, or Miller. Take the fight against Miller. It might be futile, but take the fight against Miller. And this is what, again, Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn has every reason to put this fight off. And honestly, if Eddie Hearn, and he's a smart guy, the smartest thing he could do is to donate time and energy into marketing Wilder, because his people clearly aren't doing anything for him. You know, I just it doesn't. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. But so this is what you do. Okay, you have the two guys in the U.S., biggest champions in the U.S. The best way to do this is you call up Bob Arum, all right, and you say, hey, Crawford's going to fight for a title, for a welterweight title. So if it happened, what we need is let's work out a way that we fight in Australia, wherever, we go to Australia, Crawford fights Horn, and Wilder fights Parker in co-main events. Okay? It's simulcasted because they both have deal now with ESPN, being Premier Boxing Champions and Top Rank. So it'll air on ESPN, and ESPN, if you guys are listening, it would be ever so gracious of you to do your job and promote the fight that is on your network. Don't pose crowd and athletes again. I swear, it's so messed up how they screwed him over on that fight, the last fight. But promote this, okay? You promote this one. Sky will get a piece of the action. Again, by then, we, for all intents and purposes, by then, ESPN, the parent company Disney, may own Sky. I just absorb real quick. So the people are listening in the UK. Sky and ESPN could be under the same umbrella. That's huge. And maybe even sell it to Box Nation too, because Box Nation does. They pay for broadcasts, you know. They pay for broadcasting rights, and for the most part, they get what is given to them, and they run with whatever's given to them, and they do the pre and post game. It's pretty much what pre-fight, post-fight commentary, and that's pretty much what they do. But they surrender the majority of the broadcast over to whoever is syndicating the content, simulcasting the content to them. So I'm saying if you're gonna get it, okay, you got Sky, you got it on ESPN, you got it on whatever hell the Australian equivalent is. All right. And what you're doing is you're selling this co-main event between the two best champions, the two top champions in the world boxing. Terrence Crawford and Deontay Wilder. That's how you sell it. Again, you can sell it that way, not because Wilder is the best heavyweight champion on the planet. You can sell it that way because of his record. And the fact that he has a title, has held it for his 3-year anniversary, January 15th, will be the 3-year anniversary. So he'll be going on his year. January 16th will be going on his 4th year with the title. And I'm going to get... This is the longest possible route I could take. Because, let's work in. I want you to understand this. But the whole reason why a lot of sports fans tune out is they don't get it. I just want to take a few minutes to break this down here for my sports fan listeners. I'm seeing it. I will get to football. We're going to do 95% of the show is football. And we are going to unveil, like I said, the college football playoff top 25. We're in depth with the top 10, probably the top 8, because from what I see, there's really only 8 teams that can get in right now. So, with Wilder, that's how, again, this is how you sell it. And there is something I'm going to do with Wilder. Go back over a number. We did a survey. Got a couple of surveys I do want to talk about. But Wilder having a record of 49-0 with 38 knockouts and holding a belt for 3 years. That is something you can sell. And again, you sell him as the best, most feared heavyweight in the world. And you can say that because he's knocked out 38 people. That's a pretty good record of knockouts. Now, I was over the quality position that he got. And again, that's up to boxing people, but you're not marking that to... You're marking this to Eddie, Al, Bob. Listen to this, the 3 of you. Listen close. You're not marketing to boxing people. You got to get out of this. Marketing to boxing people. Boxing people are regardless. They're boxing people. So, you have to market. You have to market to my sports fans. To my people that are on here right now saying, I want to hear the NFL. I want to hear college football. People, you need to market. The people that watched, that decided to watch Brisbane and St. Pierre last weekend before last, instead, those are the people you need to market to. The people that decided because their college football team is doing shit or has already played that they're watching the NBA. Those are the people you need to market to. And the secret sauce for the people that have been for Oscar De La Hoya, Muhammad Ali, for Floyd Jr., hell, Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is more successful in boxing as far as notoriety than 99% of boxers. He has one professional fight. We saw that he's not a professional boxer. That's the sad part. When you hear these boxing heads say it's disrespectful to the sport to have this fight, I don't disagree with them, because people that understand and know boxing, Conor McGregor had zero chance. And yeah, a lot of people could be talked into, oh, what if, maybe, in a lot of sense, because it's another combat sport. He's a tough guy. Might be a little bigger. He's younger. But you're discounting everything you don't know, and I don't blame you because you just don't know. Mayweather knew it. McGregor knew it. Both knew that going into it. The name of that fight was called Heist. And all the way up till about 2-3 weeks before the fight, they were calling it the Heist, and they were going to go with the Heist for the name, but it was too bluntly out that, hey, we're just taking your money. And the dots on that. It might not buy. And that's what it's about. The buys. The shows. The views. The people that... the asses in the seats. They did that more than anybody else. Wilder struggles with that. He peaked at around 800,000 people. And again, that's just... and he took the stage. He took the ring about 35 minutes after the Alabama game was over. And they were already winning pretty handily in their game. So, of course, after the game was over, Alabamans switched over. But still only managed to muster 800,000, which is less than half. That's less than... again, he peaked there. And that's less than half of what he did in viewers, his peak viewers, against Gerald Washington. That even boxing people don't know who the hell he was. He literally came out of nowhere. And they talked more about his time playing football than boxing, because people didn't know what to say about his boxing, because people didn't know who he was as a boxer. They knew him as a football player. And that's why he got knocked out in the first round. But by the way, he did win the first 5 rounds on basically every card, including mine, and then got knocked out in the 5th round by the water windmill. That is a real thing. And when we're working on that, I want to see we're doing the Wilder Windmill Challenge. So if you have, again, if you don't know what it is, it's basically exactly, if you think of a boxer swinging wildly like a windmill, just like it sounds, that's pretty much exactly what it is. But if you go over to the CHT on Sports, or the CHT on Boxing, or Boxing Source 2, or at Matt Long Sports, again, you'll find it. You'll see the Wilder Windmill, what it looks like. And what you do is, you can do it on Snapchat, you can do it on anywhere. Post it on social media, enter you hashtag Wilder Windmill, and then you tag either myself at Matt Long Sports, or the CHT on Sports, or the CHT on Boxing, or Boxing Source 2. Any one of those 4, all of them, tag them on your video. And we'll have a special surprise. I'm working out some deals with marketers on that. A special prize for whoever wins the Wilder Windmill Challenge. So, but I wanted to get to the survey results. So we did a polling. Again, Hearn just grabbed two random people off the street. Again, he's the owner and promoter for Mad Boxing. He manages and promotes for Big Baby Miller and BF and WBA heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua, the guy that people know who he is. Like you said, 9 out of 10 people in the UK know exactly who Anthony Joshua is. He grabbed two people completely at random in New York. The first guy was a young, athletic, African-American guy. He said, Deontay Wilder. He said, who's that? I said, okay. We're just doing a survey. He said, okay, bye. Talk to the next guy. He didn't know who it was, so he guessed. He's like, a ball player? And the funny thing is, here's the funny thing. So, the survey we did, again, it was just sports fans. So it wasn't just the general population. It was just sports fans. Okay? 41.6% of sports fans surveyed responded the exact same way as the second guy. They said, who is that? I guess he's a football player. That was their response. Now, the choices were college professor, football player, police officer, boxer, or none of these. Okay? None of these. So they looked at these options. 2 athletes and 2 people that have a status in society. And they said, I don't know who Deontay Wilder is, but he clearly has no sort of status in society like these 4 choices represent. And 8.6% of people said he is none of those. 8. Oh, you get that is a point and 4/10 away from being 10% of people, sports people, from being he's none of these. 46% of sports fans thought he was a football player. Okay? Wilder, there's been a few Wilders in the NFL. Maybe they thought they were being tricked, and they said football player. They assumed it because they clearly didn't know who it was. I assume he's a football player. They were wrong. So nearly half of people thought he was a football player. They're wrong. 8.6% said he's none of these. He has no status like this. I don't know what he is, but he clearly doesn't have this status. Now, 16.6% of people thought he was a college professor. You know, Deontay Wilder doesn't sound like any professor I ever had, but hell, I mean, don't hold it against him for his name being Deontay Wilder. Maybe he is a professor, which he is not. But at least, 16.6% thought, yeah, I have no idea who this guy is. I'm guessing he's a professor. But also, 16.6% said, you know what? I think he is a police officer. I really have no idea who the hell he is, but I bet he's a police officer. Again, sports fans. So let's run this down real quick so we can understand the math. 41.6% football, 16.6% college professor, 16.6% police, 8.6% none of these. Well, that only leaves us with boxer. And if you do the math on those, the same percent of people, 16.6%. 16.6%. The same amount of people thought he was a professor and a police officer thought he was a boxer. And those are the ones that guessed correctly. I don't know how many of those people knew, but polling the average population, I forget which publication, They did one back in 2015 when he won the title. A couple months after he won the title, and it was like 2% of the population knew what he did. And again, their survey was what sport does he play? So again, the general population, but they're slanting it saying he's definitely an athlete. Tell me which one. I think it was like 6 sports, and then it said none of these. Then it asks you, are you favorable, unfavorable, or I have no idea who this is. It was a ton of people that didn't even know who the hell he was. Listen, I just don't know who he is. On that. Or 96, was it 96? Yeah, it was ridiculous. But, okay, so this is the point. And if Hearn wants to make money off of a fight between Joshua and Wilder, he has to do the work ahead of time. And he's going to have to help Al Heyman's people. And it's advantageous in this respect for Bob Arum to get involved too. So what they need to do in a joint salvation of American boxers, okay, you pair them together in a co-main event in Australia, okay? Has to be in Australia, because this way you're pulling Parker's people, you're pulling Horn's people, okay? Co-main event there. You can throw Dylan White and Miller, or Dylan White and Anthony Brazil, or whoever the hell you want on that undercard, right? And then you essentially run with that co-main event. That's what's going to get you money. The guy that Top Rank basically handpicked as the heir to Manny Pacquiao, going to fight against the last guy that Manny Pacquiao lost to and took the title from Manny Pacquiao. Again, with the guy that you're marketing as the most dangerous heavyweight in the world fighting against the most underrated heavyweight in the world for a unification bout of the W, which is held by, and the WBO, which is held by Paul. And again, by the way, Crawford is the undefeated linear, that's all the belts at light welterweight, moving up in weight class, fight for his first time at welterweight at 147 against Jeff Horn. Clearly the toughest fighter today. That's how you sell that. It's simulcasted on Sky, BN. Then, all intents and purposes, Disney could own Sky by then, because that's under the umbrella of 21st Century Fox that Disney has been actively trying to acquire this past 2 weeks. That's how you sell that. Horn, you got to put 5 on it. You got to work it in that way. All right? That you have to work it in that way, because that gets more exposure. Has to be on Australia, because otherwise you're not going to get a gate. Wilder and Crawford being obviously a higher skill, probably the highest if after Andre Ward has number 2 pound for pound, Crawford. And you got Vasyl Lomachenko up there too, right there. I mean, Andre Ward, Terrence Crawford, Vasyl Lomachenko, those guys are top 3 pound for pound. I don't really think it's debatable. You can put Ringo at 4, just outside the top 3, but those 3 guys are the top pound for pound. Ward is retired. So, this is the match. This is what's selling, but you have to do it in Australia, because otherwise you're not going to get the. because people in the U.S. aren't traveling enough. Not people to come from Australia and New Zealand to come to Vegas, New York for the fight. And I don't think you draw enough Americans away. Again, you're looking at a fight that's probably February. Or January or February, which is right either ball playoffs or Super Bowl. So you can't do it in the U.S. You have to do it abroad. So, again, that's the matchup. That gives him exposure. After he wins that second title, that's what I'm saying. You get Dylan White in there against Miller, Dominic Brazil, or another heavyweight that really elevates Dylan White. By then, Joshua will end up another mandatory. Waller can fight who will be number one contender for, at that point in time. Now, Dylan White is a contender for the WBC, and when mandatories come up again, as of right now, his next mandatory fight is Dylan White. I think this is the WBC saying, listen, you're making us look bad, even though we've made ourselves look bad, so you're going to have to fight someone. Either fight Joseph Parker and make that fight in New Zealand happen, or you're fighting Dylan White in UK and making that shit happen. Either way, Wilder needs to fight at least one, preferably two fights before, he meets with Joshua. He needs to beat Dylan White, and then he needs to get the Joseph Parker's title. His primary goal should be getting the WBO title before Anthony Joshua does. That should be his primary goal. So that's the heavyweight division. It is thin at the top, but the top is very entertaining. It's a lot of guys that are up and coming. And none of these, if you were a boxing fan 10 years ago, you're not going to know any of these names. That's the beauty of this. That lets you know that there are young studs coming up in the sport of boxing. The oldest guy that I've talked about tonight is Big Baby Miller. He's probably been doing it the longest out of all those guys. But I'm gonna get into the boxing or into football. Don't worry about it. But first, let me bring on he's the editor for the Cold Hard Truth on Sports boxing section. The Cold Hard Truth on Boxing. He's the editor, and he's the host of the Boxing Source radio show here every Sunday night here on Blog Radio on the GoLong Media channel. James, how you doing tonight, James?
Yo, what's going on?
Okay, good. So, what do you think of my breakdown there of the direction Wilder should go next? Either Dylan White or Joseph Parker.
Well, he doesn't necessarily have to fight Dylan White. With Dylan White being the number one ranked contender, Deontay Wilder has scored that quote-unquote TKO win over Bernard Severn, who was placed number one up to that point on November 4th. So he could, he doesn't have to face a mandatory for a year after that. So, so a fight with Joseph Parker would probably help him out in his quest to make a feeble attempt to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, and get like a little bit more exposure outside of Alabama and the United States. but it does seem like he wants that. He said he wants to go after Joshua right now, and the only reason why he's doing that is because he wants that money. He doesn't necessarily want to say himself to be the best guy in the heavyweight division. And that's been evident. That was kind of evident in these talks about opening negotiations between Wilder's team and Joshua's team, in that he is making an initial bid for 50-50 per split with Anthony Joshua, which is absolutely ridiculous.
What? Why would Hearn sign that? Why would Joshua sign off on that? A 50-50 split.
Well, I mean, is this something for initial talk? So they want to see, try to, play the negotiating game and see the highest thing that they want to get to in a fight with Anthony Joshua. But by opening with something as high as 50% of the purse, that's not going to work very well. With a team with the side where the fighter is earning $20 million in the fight, while you're earning only $1.5 million.
I think 1.5 million is generous. For a while, what does he bring that's worth 1.5 million?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's, something that, other people may have to answer, because I really can't, get that, because his overall demand in the United States is not high enough to even, generate or garner something higher than a $1.5 million purse. I mean, if his own managers and co-promoters and, advisors can't even, come up with more than $2 million for him to fight anyone else, then why should he get much more than, $4 or $6 million to fight Anthony Joshua, no matter where it is?
You know what? I honestly, if he came to me, if I was Hearn, this is what I would do. I would let him in the eye, and I'd just be like, I'll tell him to let it go. Let it go. You're not getting a match. Bye. Bye, bitch. Was it bye, Felicia? That's what I do.
Nah.
I'd say bye, Felicia.
Nah,
no, here's why. Because if Hearn sits at the table with him and trying to play a game of high ball and let's see what the most I can get, I would just say goodbye. Because he has all the leverage, and saying goodbye, just the first attempt, just like balking at negotiation altogether, say bye. Because I don't think outside of Wilder, I don't think there's anybody right now in the heavyweight division that beats Anthony Joshua. I just don't see. I mean, outside
I don't think Wilder beats Anthony Joshua.
I agree with you.
I'm completely confident in that.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying, if that's the case, if the case is there's really not anybody that's gonna beat me. I mean, I could depart, and I could get another strap, and we can fight anywhere in the world, because Britain, we can go to Australia, wherever gets the most money and get us the big. Hell, we could go to Vegas and get a drawing, meet halfway around the world in Vegas, right? And get the American boxing people to go there. UK people travel well, the Aussies and New Zealanders to go. It's Anthony Joshua. This is the closest they can get to seeing a Joshua fight. It's probably the cheapest, most cost-effective way to see him fight, by going to Vegas. And you're going to freaking Vegas. Make a vacation out of it. I mean, I think Joseph Parker does better numbers than Anthony Joshua or than Deontay Wilder, and it's for another belt. You know, so I mean, there's options there. I mean, Tyson Fury's back in the gym. He does look. He's overdone it. He looks like Butterbean. You know, but he could cut weight here in a few months. That could be Joshua's next fight. That's Tyson Fury. Again, if you think about it, that would have been a champ that Fury or that Joshua would have had to beat had he not collapsed. Basically, just gave up all the belts. He literally won them all and then gave them all up. But the talks weren't the talks again. To go back, I know there seemed to be some sort of debate that Joshua and Wilder had been having talks. There's been no formal talk of a match. None at all. There's been, I want to fight him. I'd like to fight him. You know, other than, I beat him. I'd fight him. You know, but that's just jargon. That's all that is. It's nothing. There's no intent behind that. It says Klitschko, and then Fury beat Klitschko, and then it was, how do I get Tyson Fury? And it looked like Wilder might fight Tyson Fury, and then Tyson Fury got coked up, got in an accident, basically pulled a John Bones Jones, and disappeared. And now Joseph Parker picked up one of the vacant belts. Then Anthony Joshua picked up a vacated belt. And he beat somebody that was nobody for one of the vacant belts. So, I mean, Wilder's sitting here as the longest reigning champion in the heavyweight division, and he waves that around like it matters, which in reality it doesn't. Because the same way that Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua haven't beat anybody to get their belts, clearly neither did Deontay Wilder.
Right.
So all belts,
and that's the thing that that's the thing that the point that is being completely missed with Deontay Wilder is that he's trained in heavyweight champion, but I mean look at who he beat for that WBC title. First of all, Stern won the title in a vacant bout against Bill in a second fight. They fought each other before in 2013 for a minor WBC title, then again for the vacant WBC title. And before that point, Stavern really didn't have that many, big wins. He fought Ray Austin. He fought Kurt Sandwell, but his first loss to a guy that was less than 15 losses, and he lost by TKO. So, going off that barometer, he really hadn't had a solid, fight up to that point, fighting Chris Arreola, who, even Chris Arreola had a, record of like 34 wins and 2 losses in their first particular fight. He really couldn't, world caliber in his career.
My suggestion is Wilder, is he married? Is Wilder?
I think so.
Well, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What they need to do, I think Kardashian is single right now. They need to send out. They need to go on a couple of friend dates, 2, 3. Just enough to get seen together, So he can have pictures. So CMZ puts it on TMZ and not TMZ Sports. And And E Network talk about him like, oh, who's Khloe Kardashian? Oh, Khloe Kardashian. Who is this? She's rumored to be dating Deontay Wilder, who's married. So is it an extramarital affair, or is it what is it? It doesn't matter. It's what they want it to appear to be. But that's one way, a surefire way for people outside of boxing, United States, and around the world to get to know him. I mean, hire Courtney. Again, it's 3 dates, whatever, a couple times hang out. Just getting Mario Lopez to talk about them on E. I mean, that's it. He knows about Deontay Wilder because he's a boxing guy. So who's a better person to talk about it? I'm just saying, this would be something simple that if your publicist was worth a half a shit, not a whole shit, not one of those big take your clothes off shit. I mean a half a shit, like a half of what a Yorkie, a Yorkshire Terrier would put on the lawn. If he was worth half of that, he would have thought of that in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even have to split purse. You could just buy her a couple purses. I'm pretty sure she would be willing to do that. I don't know. Talk to Chris. She seems to be orchestrating everyone's life anyways. I would say Caitlyn Jenner, but she's too young. It's weird. And I think he's in the guys. Is it Clarkson? No, she's done with Clarkson. She's on to somebody else now. Oh, Blake Griffin. And Kendall Jenner. I think it's Blake Griffin and Kendall. But it seems to be working. It seems to be. I mean, the fact that any of us know who Chris Humphries is amazing, first of all.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just saying, that's one simple thing right there. And he didn't have to memorize any lines. He just has to take a few random questions from TMZ, and then right after all that dies down, you go on some of the talk shows, Go on the Today Show. You have former athletes on there on the Today Show. You go on again. Go on shows people watch. Hey, show up on Fox Business talking about the fight. Why it's the best avenue and most lucrative avenue athletes to go into. Because the top of the ranks, and you can control your own career. You are your own franchise, and again, there's a lot of you involved with that probably because there are a lot more smarter than he is that are on there asking questions. But you can arrange it so they ask some softball questions about it, and you don't have to touch big word questions. So. I'm just saying, these are just simple little things where you can pull an audience that you're missing. I mean, the fact that he's in the South, his fan base is the Alabama football fan base. That's it, the SEC, ACC fans. That's his fan base. Why isn't he attacking that more? Why don't you schedule your fight? Why don't he fight in Atlanta? I
don't know.
In the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
I don't know about that.
Just before. Yeah, I'm just saying, James, I just want to get one credential to two things. I'm just trying to make something work here. In January. Before the game.
No, we gotta get on. We gotta get on that actually.
Before the game.
They have. Yeah.
Just saying. I mean, do something. If people are gonna be there already, and people don't know who you are, fight in the fucking parking lot for God's sake. If you know people are packing the parking lot, find the goddamn parking lot.
Oh.
Is that so
Well,
bad? Is it?
Oh. Yeah, they could try anything, but
Again,
a fight in Atlanta, Eddie's been
Deontay.
that
Deontay.
won't work too well. He wouldn't even sell out the stadium for Georgia Tech basketball team
With the dome.
Hi, he would.
What's that, 20,000?
Thurman couldn't sell it out.
Yeah, Thurman is, this is where sports media just irritates the fuck out of me. How do you have a guy that's from the hometown, your local anchors don't know who he is, really, try to talk about it, and they fumble through it, and you have a guy like me, it actually was me, saying, hey, if you want somebody knowledgeable in boxing to come on the air and talk knowledgeably about boxing and this fight, I will do it for free. Don't worry, there's no strings attached. Insert name of media director. Or insert name of producer. I'm just saying, when you're the 11th largest market in the country and you're hosting an event that is this is a something actually people are gonna watch. Unlike most of Wilder's fights, they will watch it outside of Tampa. And it's in Tampa. You kind of gotta be on top of this stuff. I mean, China the Dragon Smith
And the thing is, like,
was on the fan.
It's not like the city hasn't had. It's not like the city hasn't had big fights before. They've had, the Jones Antonio Tarver 3 fight.
Yep.
You know,
by the way, Antonio Tarver lives here. Winky Wright lives here. Keith Thurman lives here.
Winky Wright's had fights there. You know.
Left Hook Lacey lives here.
It's not like
Evander Holyfield doesn't live here. He lives in Atlanta, but he's down all the time.
Yep.
Cotto is here all the time. But I mean, to sit back and talk about guys are here. Winky Wright is from this neighborhood. It's basically an island in St. Pete. He's off this little island kind of in St. Pete. Neighborhood. You know. Thurman's not from too far away from there either. I mean,
yep.
I'm just saying that it's not like guys aren't here or around here. I mean, we need somebody local in Tampa Bay. And again, Tampa Bay people. If Tampa Bay people are listening and they just went over, it's almost sad. It's wonderful to know this, but it's almost sad that pretty much the only sports media in Tampa that's going to be able to understand anything what we're talking about boxing, Riley. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Been in the business a while. Just put it that way. He's been in the business a while. So again, it's not Riley. He's been around for a long time, and he's one of the greats. But the fact that he's pretty much the only one that really knows is intelligible to speak anything intelligible on the topic is I'll get this. I'll give Jay Record. I'll give Jay Richards in Tampa Bay, and then outside of Tampa Bay, I know up here, out by Ocala, Adam Reardon, he's a boxing fan. I mean, those of you that go on my timeline, he's on here locally from, was it 7 to 9? 7 to 9. locally on, I want to say it's 100.1 or 900 AM, based in Ocala. Interesting. He's a pretty interesting most days of the week. And he is in teleboxing. Like, literally, he'll have a conversation in the same week. Like, he could hop on the show and get right in the meat of this conversation we're having. You don't can. So, well, anyways, let's get on to college football. For those of you that were waiting for Kevin to come in, Kevin won't be in tonight. He had another function that he's at, and he's in the midst of traveling right now, so he won't be into the show tonight. But nonetheless, we will move on. I want to hit on the college football playoff top 25 ranking. Have you had a chance to look at the rankings yet?
Yeah, I was watching them here, in between that game between Michigan and Fluke. So I was able to see what was going on there, and surprised at what turned out here with a couple of these spots.
And the big question this week: how far does Georgia go? How much does Auburn move up? How much does Wisconsin move up? Is Miami not being moved up high enough? It seems like the last 2 weeks, the U is back. The last 2 weeks, it just looked really good the last 2 weeks. Out of nowhere. The entire season, they look mediocre, and they were able to get by. And in the last 2 weeks, they've looked really good. So, give you the top 25 for football rank. By the way, Miami is number 2 in both the coaches poll, the Associated Press, and the Associated Press polls for this week. Just to give you guys an update on that, because again, one of only a few teams that are still undefeated in college football. I'm just waiting for my rank up here. It is not cooperating with me. James, you want to start out with number 10?
All right, we're gonna, get into it with the top 10 here. We're gonna go, like I said, going backwards. Now, number 10 is Penn State. They're at 8-2. They kind of were, just floating around there. They had 2 losses in a row, and then, won their last game. So they're, still there at the top 10. Number 9 is Ohio State, 8-2. Ohio State is, a team that, I'm pretty much upset about. Well, if I was an Ohio State fan, I would have really been upset about them because they only had that loss to Oklahoma. They had the very impressive win against Penn State, and then turn around and get trounced by Iowa this week. And then after that, they turn around and then trounce Michigan State 48-3. And right now, if they didn't have that loss to Iowa and still was able to beat Michigan State 48-3, they would not only be the undisputed in the Big Ten East, but they would be pretty much in the top 5 without question. With them being Ohio State, but this is just how they're form right now at this point, being number 9.
And
number 8 is Notre Dame. Real quick.
Yeah, these number 9 and number 10. Again, what the committee is saying here is if you're in the top 10 with a couple weeks left and the conference championship game, that if craziness happens, you might get in. And again, Penn State beating Michigan State was big, and Wisconsin beating Iowa was big. for the sake that now it shows that the level of competition within the Big Ten is actually pretty high. And what I'm looking at with the committee putting Iowa State or Oklahoma State, Ohio State at number 8, what they're saying is we realize that there's a tie between the two of you. We're going to go ahead now, right? So they essentially got that tiebreaker applied with the ranking. Okay. And what they're saying is if Ohio State can win out impressively, meaning beating Wisconsin, which is a few spots of them, we'll get into here in just a minute. There is an outside chance that the committee, if craziness happens, could find a way to push Ohio State in over Wisconsin, even having 2 losses versus 1, if chaos happens. If Oklahoma loses in the Big 12 championship, if Miami loses to Clemson, knocking them out, if Alabama loses to Georgia, and Georgia beats Alabama, or Auburn, if Auburn beats Alabama, and then Georgia beats Auburn in their second meeting, now you're in a situation where Auburn's out because they have 3 losses. Alabama's probably out because they have a loss, and they didn't win a conference championship. Georgia's only loss would be to Auburn, who they avenged the loss against. So they would be probably back in it. Oklahoma would be out because it's 2 losses, and they don't hold them at such a high regard. Clemson would be in because they would have beaten Miami and won out. Miami's out because they had a couple good weeks, but they have a loss that bumped them out. So I'm just saying, we could potentially see the committee, if Ohio State goes and beats, was it Michigan? They have Michigan left on the schedule and somebody else. They win these last 2 games convincingly, and then they beat Wisconsin, who actually has the conference locked up at this point, because they beat Iowa. And they beat Iowa handily. We might see an Ohio State with 2-loss conference champion potentially getting in over a 1-loss team. And this is just like the committee just sitting back looking at some of the chaos going on. Again, Notre Dame not having a conference championship game hurts them the same way it hurt the Big 12 a couple years back. They still got to pay Stanford. Again, there's a potential that they could have another loss. I mean, we just see Stanford beat Washington, a team that has kind of struggled the last couple of weeks. But other than that, they've been a pretty formidable team, and a lot of people like them as a representative from the Pac-12 since the beginning of the season. So, I mean, I think the most likeliness is any one of the teams in the top 8. But you could make a case that shenanigans and tomfoolery happen, and Ohio State ends up in 3 weeks when we're looking at this, and they're in.
I don't see it. I can't see it. I don't see it. Let me go through that 7 here real quick, and then I'll show you. So you have Georgia at 11. They fall from number 1 to number 7. Then Auburn, who beat Georgia convincingly, is at number 6. Wisconsin's at number 5. Oklahoma's at number 4. Miami goes up number 3 after their win over Notre Dame. Clemson's at number 2 and Alabama's at number 1. All right, so the thing has been from the top 10. Number 1, I was surprised that Georgia fell all the way down to number 7.
Yeah.
I thought they would still be, within the top 6, specifically because
I don't see how you
they ranked Georgia number 1 in the initial poll, and the reason why they ranked Georgia number 1 in the initial poll is because of their key wins, over Notre Dame, and being pretty much line up the SEC East, fairly early. They also beat like a ranked team in Mississippi State, who up to that point in the season was a very tough team. And that Mississippi State team, ended up having given Alabama a lot of trouble up to the last 30 seconds of that game. So I mean,
that was Dan Mullen's. That was Dan Mullen's problem. He lost his testicles.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I thought they would at least still be within the top 5 or 6 there, even with that loss. But the College Football Playoff Committee just decided that Auburn, even with those 2 losses, would be in the top 6. And with them being in the top 6, that really could – Auburn is the team with 2 losses that could really mess up things. And I said this, pretty much when they came out with the rankings, that, they had the potential to mess up everything because of who they had to play ahead of them. Wisconsin's there at number 5. I'm kind of, I wouldn't say I'm surprised about that. I'm kind of, fairly happy for Wisconsin that they were able to get up to number 5, even with, their schedule, not having any ranked teams at all up to this point. They still have the game against Michigan, and Michigan just got back into the top 25 there. So at least they have a game against one ranked team before going into the Big Ten title game. You have at number 4 Oklahoma 9-1. Beat then number 6 TCU. They beat TCU, so they were able to, move up in the rankings there. But I mean, Oklahoma, they were saying that Oklahoma may have a better rating than number 4 because State, who may end up winning that conference championship, and they have the win over Oklahoma State on the road. And then beating TCU, who is, then ranked number 6 in the college football playoff. And when you have 2, of those 3 wins ranked on the road, that is more impressive than, what a couple of other teams have done up to this point, which, includes Miami. Miami there at number 3, 9-0. They had the start to finish win against Notre Dame that really impressed a lot of voters. I think this was their most impressive game that they've had all season. I wouldn't necessarily count that Virginia Tech game because they were impressive on one side of the ball against Virginia Tech, and that was on defense. On offense, they really didn't have much going on other than a couple of big plays by Travis Homer. Their quarterback had 3 interceptions in that game against Virginia Tech, and if it wasn't for a response turnover forced by Miami in the third quarter to prevent Virginia Tech from either tying the game or taking the lead, then things could have been awry for Miami in that game. But they were able to get away, get out of that, win that game against Virginia Tech, then have the impressive win against Notre Dame in order to get to this number 3 spot. Number 2 is Clemson. They do have that one loss against Syracuse, but they were in the initially in the top 4 because they said lost to Syracuse. They had Kelly Bryant injured. That really nullified their offense. Ever since then, they've been fairly impressive. They had that start to finish win against Florida State. This past weekend. So they've been up to 9-1, and the key thing is with them is that, they've, already locked down their division. They had the wins against Louisville when Louisville was ranked. They, took Auburn to, 6 points. 6 points was all that Auburn could score when they played Clemson. They beat Virginia Tech, who was ranked at the time. So there was like 2 primetime games there. And like I was saying, they beat NC State. So, up to that point, they've been the team that, people thought that they would be, although I'd say they've, exceeded a couple of expectations there, specifically on offense. Number one is the Alabama Clemson Tide. Was able to get away with that win against Mississippi State, and you talked about it with what Dan Mullen failed to do there in the closing moments of that game. Alabama's there at number one at 10-0, but like I said, Auburn could really mess stuff up, and I'm really leaning towards them, beating Alabama at the end of the season. They have their own game against Alabama on defense, as a lot of players, especially within the linebacker core. So
a lot of young guys that haven't been tested on the road.
A lot of young guys out there, yeah, and that is just something that could set up to be a win by Auburn over Alabama, which would make Auburn the SEC West champions, and then go up against Georgia in the SEC championship game. And with that, I would love to see what ends up happening to Alabama if they end up losing to Auburn in that last game of the, kind of the regular season before championship week. Where would the committee put Alabama if they lost to Auburn before that championship game? Because you could end up with a situation just like last year where Ohio State didn't win their division but still ended up in the college football playoff.
And that's, again, and the question comes, if Auburn does that, can we talk about Auburn being a 2-loss team in it? Could they be the 2-loss team in it? I mean, if you look at it, if Auburn beats Alabama, the way this committee kind of seems to drop things, in theory, if Auburn can have a similar game, maybe not as dominant, but a similar game against Alabama, wouldn't that drop Alabama down to 6th or 7th and put Georgia just one notch above Alabama? Both being 1-loss teams, Georgia being a divisional champion. Isn't that kind of how the committee is slotting this thing? And Clemson, again, they're saying that whoever wins, they're saying basically whoever wins that AC championship between Miami and Clemson is in, But if Auburn wins out, beating Alabama, then beating Georgia, and we're probably looking at Auburn as a 2-loss team getting in over other 1-loss teams because they're a 2-loss SEC champion who beat Georgia twice and beat Alabama en route to it. Again, that's where your argument is. So you basically saying that a Big Ten champion in Ohio State, which is pulling more ratings for them, would not get in, nor would the 1-loss Wisconsin team that they lost to, they would not get in. And then you're basically looking at Clemson, Oklahoma, and potentially Notre Dame at that point.
Nah.
Or maybe Alabama. You might see Auburn, Alabama, Clemson, and Oklahoma.
I'm telling you, it may be Alabama. It just may be. And even if Wisconsin wins out, they could still probably put Alabama in over Wisconsin.
If not,
That would
that's
be
where
crazy.
I was when you have. Now, I entertain that scenario the scenario I had is what would have last week. Let me see, week 11. If I can remember my chaos. Stupid ass thing.
I don't know. Maybe I think Caller's in here.
It's
Something like that.
just my computer's being stupid. That's all.
All right, I think we can call it. Let's call him. I'm on the studio right now.
Yeah.
Let me get him in. He's been on hold for a little bit. Hey, yo, what's going on, man?
What's going on?
Yeah, this is man. This David, right?
Yeah, that's me.
David in
Yeah.
Atlanta.
So we've been going through that whole thing with the top 25 and all the scenarios that could happen. But I know you want to get in and talk about what happened with Miami on Saturday night, and then them ended up being number 3 in this top 25. So what are your thoughts about what the top 5 or top 10 is right
David,
now? Who's number 2?
And also, I will.
Oh, Clemson.
Did you buy a turnover chain off Amazon? I'm just throwing it.
No, I didn't buy a turnover chain off Amazon, but that's a great it's probably one of the better marketing devices I've seen in probably 20 years.
Exactly.
From sports, it's probably up there with that Green Bay.
The cheesehead.
Not the Green Bay, the Pittsburgh Terrible Tower.
Yeah.
The Terrible Tower is up there with that, and I'm predicting that in the off season, the NCAA is gonna ban that.
Oh yeah, they will.
But
because it's Miami.
I think they're gonna ban it.
Because it's
exactly
Miami.
Because it's Miami, and it's a great marketing device. It's a great recruiting device.
And you know
what? They pretty much ran it. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, a mascot is this. It's no different than a mascot. It really isn't. What's the difference between that chain and a bulldog on the sideline? It doesn't come off the sideline.
But like I said, it's the way Miami's using it. They're gonna have an issue with it.
It's Miami.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's not just being used by the fans, being used on the sideline by Miami. It's inspirational. They're gonna create some kind of crazy rule that you can't have
Props.
a prop or something like that. I'm already predicting that. That's what they're gonna do.
I was thinking the
Like
same exact thing. That's why I was asking. That's the other reason why I was asking, because I wanted to see what direction you saw this going. But yeah, I thought it was a brilliant move.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Because those kids have bought into that fucking chain.
Exactly.
They bought into this.
And they work to get it. So it's almost like an incentive.
Yeah.
Like what Luke was doing back in the 80s, where he said, if you got certain numbers, I'll give you some money, but it's not a cash in because of the culture that they built. It's a big deal to be able to put that chain on during the game.
Yeah.
And then the next guy wants to get to wear it. So if I see you get it because you get a turnover, then I'm going to go out here and try to get a turnover so I can be the guy to wear it.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? And it becomes like everybody starts to feed off of it. And the NCAA is going to break down because they see that Miami has created a way to create kind of similar to the culture that they had before without having the on-field celebration. You know what I'm saying? But it's a great marketing device. And if you can license it, if you're Miami and you can license it, you can sell a shitload of those things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what you sell a shitload of them before they ban it, because essentially you can trademark it and license it because it has got your mark. You sell a shitload of them. But what they did against Notre Dame, I thought they could beat them. I didn't know they was going to beat them like that. I seen Notre Dame play. So I didn't know it was going to be that bad. But what you can show is that the coaching and the ability to communicate to the players, especially defense, what needed to be done, and the players having a really ability to execute on what they were told to do. Because essentially everything Miami ran on defense worked, and then they started to have the ability to dictate to Notre Dame what they could run on offense.
See,
and it was over for Notre Dame once that happened.
What happens whenever Brian Kelly, his offenses really come up against athletic cornerbacks, like defensive backs that are athletic, that can jump the route, that have size and speed, he loses and bad. The last time we seen that was in the national championship game on a main stage against Alabama. Same sort of outcome there. We all know going into this game that his quarterback is very limited when it comes to the pass game. And what offensive coordinators need to learn with these guys that are limited on passing, that pass to that outside pass to the flat is a very dangerous pass because it's over no man's land, and you really, unless that running back or receiver can turn into a defender right away, a lot of times they try to dive or perceive to dive to make it seem like they were trying to catch it and got close when we all really know that they weren't going to catch it. So instead of turning into a defender, they turn into a flop. And then now, who do you have? Some fat-ass offensive lineman and a quarterback. So quarterbacks typically don't catch people. That's a defensive back that's running full speed to the end zone. It just usually doesn't happen. So that's a dangerous pass. So I'd like, if offensive coordinators, they need to run that as either a screen or they need to bring it inside on a slant. But don't go to they go into the outside like that with a quarterback that just doesn't have the skill to get the ball out quick enough to that point with enough accuracy. Because then there's you can't have a lot of margin of error. That's almost like a back shoulder throw, but again, it's a very straight line pass. Anything that's straight line is easy for the defenders to jump the route or get their hand in front or to tip it up for it to be intercepted. I see that time and time again. I've seen Nebraska has struggled with it. I've seen, even in the NFL, that's something that Jameis Winston still struggles with. That pass out there. He has the arm talent to get it there, but a lot of times he's trying to force it to the particular receiver. That's his first pass as a pro was that exact pass returned for a pick six. So again, going in.
Yeah, the thing is that you didn't have who was it? Wimbush, the dude from Notre Dame. What Miami did is they said they dared them to try to with the pass, and Notre Dame just couldn't do it. And so they just built all that, and was able to take that and be able to get to a big lead or whatnot, and just never look back. So that's the thing with that QB that they have, Wimbush, is that he just couldn't end up making plays for him. So you had the Miami defense just basically limit Josh Adams to 40 yards rushing, Wimbush to 24, and just said, hey, we're gonna use our athletic guys in the front seven and see if y'all could beat us in the first couple steps at the line of scrimmage. And if y'all can't, then we're gonna pretty much stop you. And so that's pretty much what they did. And then they just forced Wimbush to make pressure throws, and that ended up getting intercepted and whatnot. So they really couldn't do anything on offense, Notre Dame. While on the flip side, Miami was able to do what they needed to do, especially in the running game. So that was the thing on that.
Yeah, it was a really impressive win. I mean, you saw a game in which everything went right for Miami and not for Notre Dame, and a lot of it had to do with matchup. I think Notre Dame, what you're seeing in Miami now is that Notre Dame's offensive line was not as physically imposing as people thought it was going to be. And so then it turned to a contest of athletic ability, and they just couldn't match up.
Yeah.
And that's because they couldn't match the speed. They definitely couldn't match quickness. and they weren't able to maul for whatever reason. And we saw a lot of that. A lot of the ends were swimming through Notre Dame's tackles on the line of scrimmage. It's just I think it was a technical issue for Notre Dame's tackles as far as what they was taught to do in that game. And so they never really could stay on the block. Right. And you saw ends just swimming through and then scraping down the line of scrimmage and hitting those backs in the backfield.
Yeah.
So, you saw that a lot. You know, and so the thing is,
that's
either those ends from Miami got really good in a short amount of time, or they play over their head. Because the guys that was doing that, that's not how they play every week.
But here's the thing.
What I'm worried about. Either
with Notre Dame, with what Notre Dame was looking at, it saw them play. We saw, I think these last two games, Miami has played more up tempo on defense, and really bringing more pressure and different looks. I think that Rick feels that the guys he's had them around long enough. And he's given them different looks. And these last 2 weeks have been highly. And I think what you're saying is, I agree with. They're playing more over where they would normally be playing at. They're playing above where they're at, where their actual ability is. They're playing above their ability. But the thing is that I've always noticed is they run into issues. You run into issues with fundamentals. You see it a lot in college football with offensive linemen, because instead of them being able to lean on technique, they have and length and strength, they have to rely on speed. So what happens a lot of the time, and then Freeman has made a career of this in the NFL. You get the offensive lineman going back so quick that the spin move or an inside cut is there. And you're in the pocket at that point, because the rush around the outside is so great. They can't get there quick enough, and they're not getting their pad level at the right level, and they're giving up on form because they're trying to hurry to a spot to make sure that they don't get beat. And it's just a lot of speed and athleticism that's doing it. I mean, we saw Claiborne this weekend. I mean, nobody looked at Claiborne as a guy that's getting, even averaging a sack a game, let alone, what do you have, 6 or 7? This last week, he was a monster. The best game of his career.
Yeah.
I mean, teams and guys can have these stretches, and I agree. I think they probably are playing above what their real ability is right now. I think the turnover chain has a lot to do with that. I mean, your guys are getting turnovers on the defense in their backfield. I mean, you don't think one of those guys up front, the big fellas up front, you don't think one of those guys that are rushing want to get their hands up and get on that turnover chain? And they know they're putting pressure on to help create the turnover. They want some of that too. I think that they're just playing really inspired football the last couple of weeks, and I think that's part of the reason why we see him playing so much better. We have a caller calling in from Orlando. I think we got is it Stevie in Orlando?
What's going on, fella?
How's it going, man?
What up?
It smelled like Miami.
Huh?
I knew it smelled like Miami.
The turnover chain game.
It was the glitter. I saw glitter on your arm, man. It's that glitter. The KOB left glitter on you, bro. The KOD left glitter.
Word.
Gotta be careful with that glitter, man.
Dude, what is that?
That's Stevie.
I don't know.
Stevie watching infomercials and shit while he calls into radio shows.
Yeah, that's like Phil Hot, man.
Yeah, man. So, but I don't agree with Clemson being number 2. I think Miami should be number 2, and Clemson probably should be number
That was David.
Hello?
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it looks like that came from David or something like that. Now, that was David saying that, he thinks that Miami should be at number 2, over Clemson.
No, that's Stevie.
With them
no,
being, that win over Notre Dame.
The background was on David, so I got David on mute.
Yeah.
So just DM.
Okay, yeah.
DM James
Yeah,
if you want to come back on. Just.
So yeah, the thing with Clemson was that I explained when we talked about the college football playoff rankings was that they had that impressive against Auburn, having those it was like 8 sacks against Auburn, and so I think that that game pretty much like held as a factor for them. They had that win against NC State, that win. So they've had about 4 wins over ranked teams so far. In comparison to Miami getting those 2. So the thing is with Miami, I think what affected them was the initial rankings when they came out. Miami being at around number 9 or number 10. Because at that point they ain't played any ranked teams. So that kind of said they kind of said like, well, since y'all coming in from like number 10, you can't really go over Clemson, who hasn't lost since the initial playoff rankings had come out. So I think that's why they had Clemson number 2 and Miami at number 3. But if everything like holds pat, then it won't really matter until they play each other in the ACC championship game, because the winner of that goes into the college football playoff, without question.
Say what?
No, I'm saying, I was saying, with Miami and Clemson, where they're at right now, if they play and win out until the ACC championship game, then the winner of that ACC championship game is in the college football playoff. So whether Miami was, huh?
I was saying without a doubt, I'm gonna throw you a little nugget in there. The head of the committee, the head of the playoff committee, is none other than Kirby Hocutt, who was a former AD at the University of Miami, who hired Al Golden and gave him a 10-year extension, and he bolted and went to Texas Tech. Yeah, dude, I think there's like animosity there, like
Oh, I don't know, because I think what they have is like part of a rule in the college football playoff committee is that if you were currently involved with a team that's in the top 25 or were previously involved with a team that's in the top 25, then you can't really say anything about that team or give a ranking to that team. So I'm sure if he has a vote or can Miami to be wherever it be at.
Okay. I'm just saying, it just seems kind of odd, man. Hatred to Miami is real. It's real, man. And he's
90 seconds.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you on the hatred thing. I wouldn't say I hate him, but I have picked against him the last couple of weeks. So just to let everybody know that's listening, if you want to call in, we got about 30 seconds to call in. Again, the number is 347-237-539. I don't know what it is, Stevie, but if you could touch on it. I mean, just the last 2 weeks, Miami has looked different. I picked, and again, you can only really make a prediction or look at a team and see them for what they've shown you what they are. And up until the Virginia Tech game, they've looked mediocre and look like a team that's gotten by. They didn't look like a team that was just going to pop and drive Virginia Tech into the ground and then drive Notre Dame into the ground. That didn't seem like who they were. What do you think it is? I mean, I saw your T-shirt, your turnover chain T-shirt. It was a pretty cool T-shirt. I'm not going to lie. 10 seconds. It's one of those cute little novelty things. Maybe I might have to get one. Probably not though. What's your take on what's changed?
Okay. I'll tell you what's really going on. Now, I don't know. Do you remember Martin Rick when he was at Florida State? I don't think a lot of people
It's been a minute.
remember because maybe they was in high school or middle school or, you know what I mean? Like, Martin Rick is the type of guy, he's been holding his playbook back until these two games on defense and offense. Like, they've been holding it back. They don't want nothing on film. They don't just see nothing. So they just been going off shit. It's been very vanilla on his play calling, been easing different things in. They never ran the Wildcat until the Notre Dame game. It's a lot of different dynamics that he's done with his offense that he wasn't doing during the season. Also, you got to look at these guys are in mid-game. They missed 2 weeks, man. Florida State, as you can see, not just the quarterback play, but they're missing those games, man. It kind of hurt them. And it hurt Miami, too, but they found a way to fight through it. Now they're in game shape. Now they're back conditioned. You know, it takes a toll when you miss ball games when everybody else is playing. You know what I mean? And now Miami hasn't had a bye week either. They just been going straight. So, you know, it's a lot of things that that's going in. And, you know, the old players are coming back, too. I mean, they've always come back, but they're, like, coming back helping coach these guys. Teaching them about the history, about what it means to be a Hurricane. And
I know. Dan's still trying to get his invite back. You ready? You missing Dan Celio down Coral Gables?
No, nobody likes that guy. Nobody likes that guy. But yeah, man, the environment is so different, man. It's unbelievable. I mean, just the city is bought in. The fans have come back. You know, people talk all that trash about fans, but it's just like anybody else. When you got mediocrity, they're not coming to a football game. Why would they come? First of all, the campus number. Y'all got to see what I see. When you walk to the games, like when we first, there's 21 buses from the school. They come from Coral Gables. They take 21 buses to come up there, man. So, you know, the students come, but all the real fans will come back. You know, a lot of the Miami, you understand there's a lot of people that go to Miami games, they drive from out of town like I do. There's a lot of people there's people from Atlanta, there's people from everywhere. They come. Not everybody in Miami goes there because, you know, there's Florida State fans in Miami. There's Gator fans in Miami. There's all kind of fans other than Miami fans. Like, if you're a Miami fan in Miami, you've been one for a long time. It's not something that you just say, hey, I'm going to be a Hurricane fan today. That doesn't happen. Now, something that's been quiet. Oh, where are all these Hurricanes fans coming from? Well, I knew they was a Hurricane fan. There's never been nothing to be happy about. You know what I mean? Like, what have we been excited about? Saying, oh, well, it's always next year. It's always next year. You know, then it's like, when are we going to do something? And now we're doing something, man. It feels good. You know, people say, I mean, every week, oh, y'all going to lose to Virginia Tech. Oh, y'all lose to Syracuse. Oh, y'all going to lose to Notre Dame. Like, you just don't understand, man.
Now, for the record, I said Syracuse could be a trap game.
I didn't think that.
And UNC could be a trap game.
Yeah, I didn't think that they would have a stumbling year this year. I thought they would win at least 9 to 10 games this year. You know, so it was kind of due for them to have that type of.
Based on what?
It was just that.
Based on what, James?
Based on.
Come on, man. I'm gonna call bullshit on that real quick. Hold up. Based on what?
No, man. If you look, I'm like, look at the schedule. Look at.
Is Florida State losing that many goddamn games, messing with your head so much, bro? I mean, Like I thought the Canes were going to win 10. When's the last time the Hurricanes won 10 games? What made you think they were going to? Would James pay? Is Stevie pay you to say that? Stevie, you paying people to say stuff now?
Well, hold on. Now,
come on now.
Like one of your frequent callers said, frequent callers were saying before the season started, he got on Miami's schedule this year. So going from that schedule, did you actually think that Miami could win less than 9 games with the schedule that they had?
Miami has surprised me.
On paper.
Miami has surprised me in the recent history of how they can make an otherwise smooth ride to a divisional title not happen.
So they disappointed you over the past few years. Okay.
I think they disappointed. I think Stevie's disappointed. I think most of the people that buy season tickets are disappointed. People that say they're Canes fans have been disappointed. The sports media, the sports world. College football is better when Miami is what it was the last 2 games. Because
but, I mean, look at what they did. Look at what they did last year, though. I mean, they had a run, then they had a losing streak, and then they ended with another run. So they ended the season 9-4 last year. So going off that 9-4 season, you would kind of expect off the top that they would have some momentum to try to do something even better this year. And it wasn't like
Mark Richt's really good at 9 wins.
I mean,
like I'll give them 9 wins every year with
Rick
Mike
being
Richt.
Rick.
Yeah, Rick being Rick. Like, but saying they're gonna get 10 and they're gonna challenge for a conference championship, I'm like, I don't know about that. I have to see something.
Yeah, they would do, man.
Now I didn't expect Notre Dame being what Notre Dame was coming into that game. They've improved a lot year over year.
But here's the thing though. In that division alone, who other than Virginia Tech did you think would be a valid challenge to win the division, other than Miami?
Exactly.
I just thought Virginia Tech was going to win the division hands down.
Okay. Okay.
Because you've been listening to Kevin Crest too much. Man.
Exactly.
No.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that.
That's fair. That's fair to say. That's fair to say.
I've been against that guy for a while.
That's fair to say. I probably have been listening to Kevin for too long. That's fair. That's a fair assessment. I mean, because Virginia Tech has found a way to Mark Rick. I don't want to say it, to fumble some stuff up too. I mean, they had to come back from down 20. They were down 28 in the bowl game against Arkansas to come back to win the game by 3. I mean, come on. They've been Clemson, the Clemson game this year. I mean, it just looked like.
I mean, the thing with them, they had that close game against West Virginia to start the year. They had the loss to Clemson, then Boston College was a fairly close game. But other than that, who have they really played? Delaware, Old Dominion, East Carolina, North Carolina.
I'm gonna put it like this. I'll put it in boxing terms. Boston College is a Mexican boxer. I'll put it like that because it doesn't matter what their record is. That those some bitches will come in and they will just fight and fight and fight and fight, and they can literally beat any team in the conference any given week. But they're probably going to beat any team in the conference every season. Like they're going to lose most of the conference game, but
they're like the Orlando Toledo.
Yeah,
they're the Orlando Toledo of college football.
Yeah, exactly. They're the Orlando Toledo of college football. Yeah.
Can I say something real quick? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, y'all need to look at the Hurricane season last year. They lost to Florida State by 1 point.
Yeah. I
That
was
game could
sad.
have went either way.
I like seeing the nose lose.
You know what I'm saying? Yep.
Notre Dame.
That's the 10th win.
The shoe was on the other foot this year. Notre Dame was down by 20 points. So was Miami last year. But Miami scored 27 unanswered points in that game and should have won it. They dropped an interception. You know what I mean? Like, ever since that second half of that Notre Dame game, Miami was on a tear. The only loss that Miami should have had last year was Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech outright beat them. But North Carolina, they just couldn't get anything going on offense. North Carolina scored 20 points. They lost by like points to North Carolina. All they had was 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, 7. Yep. Other than that game against Virginia Tech, that was their biggest loss was 7 points. So they could have won any of those other games.
And the reason they lost Virginia Tech was Brad Kaya, he can't run. Yeah. Now you see what happened when you got a running quarterback at Miami. It's ridiculous. The man look like a running back out there. You know what I mean? Like, but anyways, I'm not gonna get too excited about that. But I'm just saying, and after that Notre Dame half, that second half, Miami went on a tear. They were destroying teams. Just like they did in Tech, just like they did in North Tech. Pittsburgh had beat Clemson, they destroyed Pittsburgh. Like, Pittsburgh wasn't even a fault. Like, the game wasn't even close. And they just kept going. West Virginia, high-powered offense. Oh, my goodness. Shut that shit down. It's the same. Like, Manny Diaz, he loves that kind of offense. Because it doesn't work. Oklahoma, that shit ain't going to work. When the money is on the line, that offense is not going to work. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. When you play a real defense, it doesn't work. When you can't get a playoff, Baker Mayfield, get out of here.
Stevie.
Man. I don't want to hear about that guy.
Real talk right now. Take your turnover chain off for a second. If it comes down to some sort of miraculous way, again, I'm only saying that because they have to go through Clemson and win a game in the playoff, and say that they play against Alabama in Atlanta. Who do you like in that game?
I'm going for Miami all day long.
Well, I know you're rooting for them.
One-trick pony. They're a one-trick pony. They run the ball. Okay, we still gonna run our 7-man front. We're not putting 8 in the box. Okay, Jalen Hurts, beat us with your arm because you have none.
Man.
We know you got Ridley. You gonna throw it to Ridley?
Exactly. Everybody gonna do that all night.
I'm telling y'all, man. I'm telling y'all, Alabama ain't gonna make it. They're not gonna make it.
They might not make it.
They're not gonna make it.
Everybody on Miami's defense should run 4-2, 4-3 like Ridley. He ain't doing nothing. Come on, man. Let's be real. Jalen Hurts, where you running to? Because ain't no running quarterback ran against Miami all year. We shut that. Dungy, that man got hit like 28 times, man. Come on, man. Like, you don't see none of that. You don't see none of that, boy. I don't know where. Y'all better pull up the tape. Miami offense was the only thing that was struggling. That was a real problem. Now the offense is clicking. I better pull up that tape, boy. I'm trying to tell you. Got all that running quarterback stuff, it don't work.
Yeah, I think this game against Notre Dame was like that first game where, Miami's offense was all cylinders, from start to finish, basically. I mean, they didn't necessarily, make any mistakes, nothing like that. Were very, efficient, on the ball. No turnovers, no key turnovers in that game. So, they keep that, man. They're gonna be a problem for anybody.
Yeah.
But my thing with Alabama is, they're vulnerable right now. I mean, they got past, like I said, they got past Mississippi State, 31-24. off a last-minute touchdown, and they're suffering more injuries on defense. And, with that, I'm saying they are wide open for Auburn to pretty much mess them up. Because like you were saying, Stevie, you're saying that, hey, we're going to have, Jalen Hurts beat you. Well, that's what Auburn did to Georgia. They tried to, make Jake Fromm beat them, and he couldn't do it. And so they're going to be trying to make Jalen Hurts beat him. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it. And they're going to be they're going to be outscored, and Auburn's going to win that SEC West. And then see what's up in the SEC title game.
Yeah. If Alabama plays anybody like they played Mississippi State, they're gonna get beat. So they should have lost. They should have lost on Saturday.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I watched the game. They should have lost on Saturday. Just Mississippi State couldn't keep it up. But if Alabama plays Miami like they played Mississippi State, they get blown out. They get blown out playing like that.
Yeah.
They didn't play a team with no real offense and still gave up 20-some points. So now
the thing is, Fitzgerald is a guy that gives Alabama problems, or Alabama defense problems. They've always had problems with the quarterback that could basically beat them with their legs, or throw them off the game with their legs. So you get somebody like who Miami got, that's gonna be a problem. Even with that, with Travis Homer having big games, man. Once they get if Travis Homer gets past that initial line of scrimmage, that's it. I would say that's it, because they ain't got no linebacker depth now. So,
but Alabama did was force them into a pat down and shut down Ridley. The thing about the SEC is that they don't have no real serious cornerbacks. They don't have no real serious secondaries.
Right.
So Ridley always got somebody that he knows he could get open on, but. I put that team in some other league, I'm going to be able to do things like that.
When I saw Fitzpatrick got put on behind, I said, man, Alabama ain't the team, boy.
You know who?
No, I mean,
that was the last game.
Alabama.
They just do. I mean, they do what they do.
Alabama reminds me of Iowa. Man. I'm not gonna lie. They really. I mean, they're in a different. No, they do. I mean, it's a run-first offense. They always have a quarterback that gets some yards passing, but it's never really a threat. And then they always have something decent on defensive line, and then you may have one DB per year every other season that's notable. But other than that, their defense is their linebackers and their defensive line. It's a lot like that. They have a really weak out of conference schedule, typically. And I don't give them full credit for doing neutral site games. I get the allure of it, but I think it's a chicken shit cop out to do a neutral site game and not to man up and do a home and home. So I mean, they find ways to make it easier on themselves. I mean, again, the neutral site games they're trying to look at, okay, where are they at? Dallas. What's that? A 5-hour drive? 5 hours? A 6-hour drive?
5 hours from Alabama.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it more than 5?
6, 7, 8.
It couldn't be.
Yeah,
it's like about
5.
No.
Yeah, it's about 7 hours.
No, it can't
From
be.
where?
From Tuscaloosa to Dallas.
Yeah.
About 7 hours, man.
I don't know. Maybe maybe from up there north. Maybe it's more like 7 hours. Because it was only like 4 from Mobile to New Orleans. It was only like 4 hours. That's what I'm saying. And Dallas was only 2 hours. No, it was only 4 hours.
Man, it's like almost 9.
No, no. From Tampa to New Orleans was 10.
Right.
And it took to Tallahassee. It was like another hour or so to Mobile.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only like.
I drove from New Orleans to Orlando, but I got to Mobile pretty quickly. So I think Matt might be on the head on that one.
No.
I got to Mobile pretty quick.
it was
15
only
hours in Pensacola. Now, Pensacola to Orlando, that's another 7-8 hours.
Yeah, because it's more south, and that road is slow as shit. You get over in the Panhandle down to Pensacola. But anyways,
yeah,
what's that? But yeah,
I 10 on that BS, man.
Yeah, because we did Tampa, New Orleans. It was only 10 hours to get to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Well, like I said,
that's right.
Five to Tallahassee, and then another hour to Mobile, and then another 4 to New Orleans. But that's what they said. It was only another couple hours to get to Dallas from New Orleans. So,
No, it's more than that.
Yeah, more than that, man.
It's more than that. You got to get past Houston.
No, you don't. You just go north.
Okay.
Yeah, you go through Shreveport. You go through Shreveport.
No, from New Orleans. New
Orleans, you got to go through Houston first.
Yeah, I know. I ain't gonna. I mean, I'm saying New Orleans is east.
Yeah.
New Orleans is east Texas.
Unless if you're going like
Texas.
unless you're going like to Baton Rouge and then try to go north through Louisiana and then cut through. Then you're going through Houston first.
I'm gonna check the directions
And then go north.
I'm telling you, man. It's been about 3 years. It's been 3 years.
New Orleans is then you're gonna hit Beaumont and you're gonna hit Houston.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now you can get off the ways if you want to, but that's the easiest way to get though.
David, you doing a lot of road tripping we don't know about?
No, see,
he's like,
I know how to look at a map. I know how to look at a map and close my eyes and see it. That's the thing. But I know the difference between east and west and south. There's no way New Orleans. There's no way that Dallas is east of Houston.
It's north.
Yeah, no way.
Nope. There's no way it's east. So there's no way you're going to get to Dallas before you get to Houston. Like you said, like all the way through Louisiana, go all the way around. But like, I can look at a map, and then I not look at a map for another year and tell you what's on the map.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I can always do that.
I don't remember the map from New Orleans to Dallas because I didn't drive that. But I remember because I was just playing around looking at what's what. How far is it? It was only a couple hours to Houston. Maybe that's what it was. Houston was only a couple hours away.
Okay, but
and Dallas was another 5.
And let me give you a little bit of game. I'm gonna give you some game. That's you know what I'm saying, some Buccaneer game. And I ain't the NFL. And I live right outside of Atlanta, right?
Yeah. You could
pick up something. You could pick up something in Texas and straight shot it all the way to Atlanta because of the highway system. See what I'm saying? So this is why Atlanta is one of the cities that it is when it comes to certain things. Because you could pick up something in California and damn near straight shot all the way to Atlanta. But you're going to have to go through Texas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if you get the game and don't drop them, but people that know about get on that road like that know that it's certain highways that pretty much connect. So you could jump on 10 and shoot all the way into Texas. You know what I'm saying? And then you could jump on 10 and go east and pick up 75 and go north right into Atlanta.
Yeah. It's like all them interstates pretty much like merge in Atlanta, or
exactly.
That beltway.
Exactly.
So all that stuff, pretty much like it's centralized right there, and then from Atlanta you pretty much go anywhere in all points. All points north, south, east, and west.
Dallas is 7 hours.
You really need to get
Houston. Just saying, Houston's still 5 hours.
From Houston to what?
New Orleans.
But I'm saying, but you got to get to Houston first before you get to Dallas.
No. Well, that's the thing is like, no, it was the Houston route or going to Dallas. It takes me New Orleans to Lafayette and then Lafayette 49 to Shreveport to Dallas. That's the way it says the fastest route.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying because the route that I had looked up, like I said, you go through Shreveport. I remember you go through Shreveport because one of my friends lived in Shreveport, and I was like, oh, if we came up that way, we'd stop by. But he don't live there no more. He moved to Mississippi, somewhere in Mississippi.
Okay, I feel you.
But I thought Houston was closer. Well, I don't remember. I remember Houston was like, I thought it was only like a couple hours, like 2 hours away. But it's saying almost 6 hours. It's an hour flight.
Yeah, I mean, but that ain't no far drive. That's not a bad drive.
No, it's not. No, yeah. It's no different than going from Tampa to Tallahassee. You know, it's probably a better looking drive than that. Tampa Tallahassee is like the worst drive outside of Lincoln, Denver. Those are like the two worst drives I've ever been on, and I was just like, fuck. This.
Why? Because you're going on I-10. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. You know, man. Because I used to go from Tallahassee to Miramar like almost every other weekend, and that shit was I just jump in the car and do it.
That's a ride, boy.
No, you just go 75 till you get to Alligator and across Alligator, you right there.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
But
yeah, I just take 75 south. I mean, it's a ride, but you know, to jump in the car, man, and go from Atlanta to Orlando in one day. It just ride till I get to Valdosta, get me something to eat, jump right back in the car, and keep riding that shit till I hit the tollway.
Stevie's like the black.
Like I say, dog, you know.
Stevie's like the black Guy Fieri, man. He be staying on the road. That's all I ever see popping
I know
up
what I'm
somewhere
saying. I know
else.
Stevie on the road.
Diners, dives, and drives.
that Atlanta trip, if you do it enough, it's nothing. But when you ain't done it in like 6 months, now David, let's be real. If you ain't done that trip in 6 months,
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But once you learn how to do it, it's easy because, like I say, once you hit Valdosta, get you something, it break it up. It break the trip up and get you something, you know what I'm saying? And just jump right back on. The next thing you know, you'll be on the down turnpike.
Yeah, we think alike because I always stop at Valdosta.
Yeah, exactly. That's where you got to stop in. Stop at Valdosta, get something to eat, chill. Exit number 5. I hit up that Chick-fil-A, get something to eat, and just hit it right back.
They got Zach.
Yeah, they got Zach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. So, but I'm used to being on. I'm gonna tell you, man. I used to be in Avon Park, Sebring, all that shit. I know how to get on that road, dog. It ain't nothing. Like I say, I can see it in my head. I ain't even gotta look at no map.
Shout out Exit 5.
Yeah, that's 20. That's 27. Sebring.
Yeah, you know, see, I used to have a homeboy out there. You know what I'm saying? Then I had another homeboy went to Edgewood and stayed out there in Avon Park. You know what I'm saying? And I used to be, you know, moving around there. Then hit down in Miami, used to be over there in Carroll City, come back up. So I pretty much was just hitting all Central South Florida. I just didn't really, too much, was never really in North Florida like that, really not in Tampa that much. But all of the South, that I-95 corridor, I used to be Fort Lauderdale, all that shit, Palm Beach, all that.
All right, let's get back into sports. And we got 30 minutes left. About 30 minutes left on the show. I wanted to get into a little bit of the NFL. I know some people may be boycotting the NFL still. And honestly, at this point, I've kind of lost some of the interest in the NFL just because I feel the level of quality of the product that has been put on the field this season has been far diminished than what we've seen the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, yeah, part of it may be because injuries and injuries to marquee players is higher this year than the average. But James, what are you seeing as far as the NFL? I mean, do you think the games have been more boring, or it's been lackluster, or the product's diminished this season versus seasons of recent memory?
Me personally, favor college football over NFL anyway. So, what's happening, now is just, something where there's just a bunch of mediocre teams and, not really that many great teams, top to bottom. You have, the Eagles there sitting at 8-1, but if you look at their schedule, they really haven't played that many people there. Their schedule is backloaded. So we're going to see what's up with the Eagles, here in this second half of the season. As far as like these other teams, where you got, two horrible teams. You got the Browns, and then, up to a certain point, it was like the 49ers, but then the 49ers turned around to beat the New York Giants. So now, your Giants looking, real bad. Bucks real bad. Bears
Hold on.
are horrible.
I got a little trivia. I got a little 49ers trivia. Who was the coach for the San Francisco 49ers the last time the team won a game on a Sunday?
On a Sunday? So was it Kelly?
Nope.
To the Harbaugh?
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, it had to be Harbaugh.
Yep.
Harbaugh. I was just going to ask a hard question.
Well, I'm just saying that's like 3 seasons. 3 seasons. I mean, they've been bad, but who would have fathomed that most games, all but 2 games all year long, the 49ers will play on a Sunday. So they in 3 seasons, they have only won a game on a Monday or a Thursday. That is fucking terrible.
What was that unnamed coach that became the head coach?
Exactly.
What was his name?
I don't even remember.
What was his name?
Tannenbaum, I think, something like that. Their guy. It was their guy. It was a Tannenbaum. It was something like that.
Solo?
Yeah. Jim Tom Solo.
What's his name? Solo?
Yeah, Jim Tom Solo.
Yeah.
He was a season, and he got canned, and
that.
Chip Kelly, he got canned. Now,
Yeah, I remember it was the first Thursday night game. Carlos Hyde went off. And I'm like, the 49ers might got him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Next thing you know, it was terrible. Terrible.
Yeah. I was like, man, what happened?
I think who they had played in that game? Was it the Vikings? I think it was the Vikings.
I think it was the Vikings. It was either them or the Rams. It was the Vikings, though.
And the funny thing is, the Vikings
the Vikings.
were making playoffs. The 49ers, it was just terrible, man. Terrible.
Yeah.
Was that Teddy Bridgewater's debut? Wasn't that his debut?
I think so. Yeah, because they made the playoffs that year. Then the next year, he got hurt.
Well, the next 2 seasons hurt, but yeah. Well, he stayed hurt, I guess. He got hurt, stayed hurt, basically. I'm saying he might be back this season. I think they're going to activate him this week as a backup. I know Keenum's playing well enough that it's almost like just ride in. It seems like whoever they put in at quarterback works. But that's how you know you have good coaching. When your backup and third string guy come in and they produce, that says your front office did a good job of finding players that fit your system and your coaching staff, and that your coaching staff is good enough to coach guys to play and work within the system they have and be successful. You know? Because Sam Bradford is nothing like Teddy Bridgewater, and Case Keenum is nothing like Bradford or Teddy Bridgewater.
But you know, Case Keenum came out of Houston, right?
Yeah.
He was known for slinging the ball around that yard. He had a lot of upside coming into the feet. He just wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Maybe the
So did Kirk Kingsbury. Kingsbury landed in he landed in New England. That's what his problem was. He wasn't going to go anywhere after that. He's like, "Yep, I better get into being a coach." he He was Jimmy Garoppolo before Jimmy Garoppolo.
Who?
Kirk Kingsbury.
Oh.
He was Tom Brady's first backup.
Yeah.
After they got rid of Bledsoe.
Okay. That's a good trivia name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Jimmy G, that's different. That's a whole nother level. What he did in college under Dino Babers, that was amazing, man. Amazing. That man threw for like 56 touchdowns, man.
Where do you rate the move to pick up Garoppolo with a second round pick? Where do you, Stevie? Where do you rate that at? I've been highly favorable of spending that second round pick to get 6 or 7 game audition potentially. I mean, they might not even start him this week, they said, but you got 6 or 7 games to work him in your system and test him within your practice and get him some live action before signing him. I mean, what do you? Are you favorable of the move, spending a second round pick to get Garoppolo for a few games?
I mean, who are you saying? Are you thinking that? Are you saying more like who won out of that deal, or just saying rate it based on what you see?
What do you think it was a good move by the 49ers to spend a second round pick to get a look?
As far as the 49ers is concerned, yes, it's a great move because you need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Jimmy G probably has all the tools to just know what he really can do as a franchise quarterback. That's where the iffy comes in because you don't know. It's a bad football team. It's not like they're a good football team. It's a bad football team, you know. So this team is already, you know, with what's his name, Matt Castle. He looked good in the system for a little while.
Yeah.
He came to Kansas City and like doo-doo. You know what I mean? So we won't. Time will tell.
Do you know who Case Keenum's?
I see the optimism in that trade.
Do you know who Case Keenum's offensive coordinator, quarterback coach was in college?
Who?
Kirk Kingsbury. It's a Kingsbury touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's going to happen with your Jaguars, Stevie? Because Blake.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, of course. You're the only one here that owns anything Jaguars.
Yeah, they're my second team. The Dolphins, unfortunately, I can ride it back.
Bro, the crazy thing is both of your teams that are typically shitty are both in it. How the hell are technically the Ravens are still in it to make the playoffs? Like, the Ravens suck.
They don't really suck. They got winning records, buddy. I don't know, but I would say like.
Have you watched them this year?
Game on
like, the Jags will go as far as they want will go. If he can look up Chad Pennington film, that's what he needs to do because that's the only way the Jags gonna win.
With Pistol Pennington?
He needs to look up Chad Pennington. Yes, he needs to look at this guy, the best game manager NFL have ever seen. Chad Pennington. Look at the film, and that's how you
AKA check down.
Alex Smith tried to do it, he can't do it. But Chad Pennington, that's that dude. Talking about game manager, yes. Look him up. That's what Blake Bortles needs to do. Learn how to play mistake free. You know what I mean? Because the defense, they reeling over there, man. They reeling. Them boys out there bad.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And I got a couple things to talk about with the Jags, with one of the Jags things, though.
Hey, go ahead.
And they can't win on the road. They can't win at home. They can win on the road. That's where it starts. You learn how to win on the road. You can find a way to start winning at home, but you got to get people to the games first, I guess. So we'll see how that goes, man. I think the Jags, they got a lot of upside. They can definitely win the division, so especially with Deshaun Watson going down like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But, they were still behind. Houston was still behind anyway. So, right now, Jags got to deal with the Titans.
Oh, yeah, the Titans. Those are the two teams that you saw slowly but surely coming into their own, the Titans and the Jags. They were the young team at the bottom, but now they're turning their stuff around, man. It's gonna be a battle between them two, man. It's gonna be a big battle to see who's gonna win the division, but it's good for that division because every team has been sorry. Even Houston, they haven't been good. They make it to the playoffs, but they get blasted, So, that division to have competition and not be known as the worst division in football, So, we'll see how it goes. It's a lot of people are surprised Henry hasn't taken DeMarco Murray's spot. You know what I mean? But DeMarco Murray, he's not going to tonight.
Well, I told you what the deal was there, though, right?
Henry. The thing is, Henry is just like how David said, like how they have these running backs that are, different, like have different positions or only have a specialty. Like the thing with Derrick Henry is all he is like a bruiser back. You can't use him. You can't use him in like passing situations or pass catching situations. And that was shown that was shown in Alabama. Because they had Kenyon Drake out there for passing situations, while Henry was just a dude that would run basically through the line of scrimmage and go right through the middle on dudes. But when it came back passing, they didn't really do nothing.
Hey, David, what was your analogy for that one? It was like one carriage Ferris wheel. I remember it was. what was your analogy on Derrick Henry? It wasn't one trick pony. It was something like a carnival or something.
I don't even remember, man.
I remember I fell out laughing.
It's been a long time since he put out Alabama.
I know, but I remember you said it. I just fell out. I was like, yeah, that's him.
But
it was funny as hell.
Even pre-draft, when we had the show, we talked about the back, Derrick Henry, how he couldn't catch out of the backfield. At first, there was always one guy that we will not name that always had was head over his everything Alabama, but he couldn't hear about Dalvin Cook or any of these other guys. All he could hear about is what he did in high school. We don't care about that. We want to know what he's gonna do in the league. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, he's a LeGarrette Blount. But the funny thing is about LeGarrette Blount, when that man played in college, he could do everything. He wasn't just a bruiser, man. This dude was from Fort Myers, where Deion from. You know what I mean? This dude can do everything. Catch out the backfield is something that they made him later on. I don't understand how he became this bruiser type back and short yardage back, but LeGarrette Blount, that dude was nasty in college, man.
Hey,
I just wanted
to go.
And it looked like people in the NFL didn't know how to use him right, except for the Patriots. Patriots had him.
I just want to say something real quick about Deion. The shit he said about Tony Romo, the extent he went with that was a dick move. That was completely a dick move. Did you guys hear any of that?
Yeah.
No, I ain't run the clip.
I saw it.
All right. So
Romo
made a comment, a small comment. Again, there's not a lot of things that you can say about Deion Sanders' game that's negative outside of tackling. clearly he was not the best tackler. He pretty much avoided contact pretty much all the time. He didn't want to tackle. He locked somebody down. He didn't need to tackle. So he made an offhand comment about Marcus Peters. He said that his tackling really made Deion Sanders look good, which again, obviously, it's a shot and a small shot, and it's one of those things like, oh, okay, that's how it is, and you say something back. But Deion decided to take it personal in a way that was completely over the top. Basically just unloads about Tony Romo's entire career and his lack of success his entire career as a comeback to an offhand comment about tackling. I don't know. I just thought it was the way he went about it. It wasn't like he made a couple comments. Well, what about this? The dude really, he went on for like 5 minutes just shitting on Tony Romo. I don't have a problem with him clapping back, but when you take a fucking television segment to clap back and shit on somebody, you just went to a dick mode level. Like, it was overkill, and it just was like, dude, you're just a dick. It's, whatever. It's not even funny. You're just a dick.
Yeah. What you gotta understand, man. You gotta understand. People like Deion, people like Michael Irvin, people like Warren Sapp. These guys are champions, man. They got rings. You understand? And they from Florida. You come out of Florida, boy, they take it personal. A little shot,
feel you,
and that's what's gonna happen.
I feel you.
If you don't know Deion by now,
No, I feel you. But I mean, like Deion would have perfectly been acceptable. Like, he could have hit his point and wouldn't have had to say nothing else. He could be like, Tony Romo. He could have pulled a Stephen A. Smith and people would have got through and been like, come on, Tony Romo, you're really talking about me? You're one to talk? I'll just leave it right there. I'll hang it up on the shelf and leave it right there. We can all look at it. Like, he could have just said some shit like that and left it, and everybody would have been like, oh, damn. They knew the temperature of the room with that. But he decided to go on for like 5 minutes on a rant.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, like, it went to a dick level. Like, I don't have a problem. If he would have said, he's like, the guy that's going to make it to the playoffs twice in his career in 11 years, only win one playoff game. This guy's going to rat on me about my tackling. I don't know. Should I talk to him about championships in baseball or football? I don't know which one, but I could talk about them to him with either one. I'll just leave it there, Tony. You keep commentating and keep me out your mouth. Like, he could have just left it there, and that's like 25 seconds. The dude really went on for 5 minutes. He's like, oh, I got ammunition. It's like it almost seemed like Deion Sanders fucking hates Tony Romo and has just been looking for the opportunity to publicly shit and urine on him. Like, that's what he was looking for. He shit and urined on Tony Romo in a 5-minute rant over an offhanded joking comment about Deion avoiding contact and tackling. Like,
Matt,
yeah,
you're right. You hit it right on the head, man. Because he said the things that Troy Aikman wanted to say. He said the things that Michael Irvin wanted to say. He said the things that Emmitt Smith wanted to say. Russell Maryland, all them greats that was at Dallas. You had too many opportunities, too many great teams. The best offensive line in football. You can't win a playoff game.
Those were to the end. Those weren't to the end. Hold on. Let's not misremember. For most of his career, his offensive line was shit. It was shit. They would get some running backs in there, and they did decent run blocking, but the pass blocking was shit. For the most part, they really didn't have people at skilled positions until Dez. Okay, I mean, let's be real with it.
How long has this Brian been? How long has this Brian been there?
6 seasons. 6 seasons.
Six seasons?
This is his 5th or 6th season. One
How
or two.
many?
5 or 6.
What? When did Des Bryant come out of college? I don't know if y'all been watching football, boy. Man, this is the 6th season?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, that's off the top of my head.
I bet
When did he come out?
2010. This is the 7th season.
7th season.
All right. Well, you know what? I ain't even gonna get into Des Bryant because, yeah. I'll just say I don't really want to get into Des Bryant.
Okay, so hold up. So this is his 7th season. So Romo had him for 6, and they've had an offensive line for now 5 years. So Romo only had it for 4. So what you're saying is 2/3 of his career he had a shit offensive line and 1 skill player? Is that in half his career he had 1 skill player? I mean, that's what I'm hearing. And that's not even to talk about the ongoing carousel and battle between the general manager, owner, who's the same person, the head coach, who the fuck is that this month? You know? The only constant has been Tony Romo and Jason Witten over that time period. Those were the only constants. And look, on defense would have been Lee, but he's been hurt every season, like the last 3 seasons. So, I mean, we could sit here and talk about, well, Romo didn't do shit in 11 seasons. But it wasn't Romo didn't necessarily do shit in 11 seasons. It's Romo tried to do a lot in 11 seasons. And frankly, 80% of his career, he tried to do too much. Because, he ran into a similar situation that Andrew Luck had run into. Trying to move around and make shit happen. Unfortunately for him and Andrew Luck, they haven't ended up like Aaron Rodgers, where it has worked out. Because Aaron Rodgers is that much better than both of them. That's the difference in degree of players. It's not that Romo is shit. It's laughable how many bad situations he got into and that he didn't make things happen in this. But that's not all on Romo. I mean, you lose a quarterback, that could be devastating. But Dak was completely the beneficiary of what we seen. Romo was working for Romo last season, or the season before last, and the season before that. I mean, Dak walked into the best offensive line. He walked into having Dez, having Elliott back there. I mean, he had what? Romo had DeMarco Murray for one big season behind the best offensive line in football. Yeah, so I'm just saying. So where are we sitting at right now? If Romo doesn't get hurt, did the Cowboys have the same season last season? Maybe. I don't know.
Nope.
We can't. Nope. I mean, you can't say no.
No, they don't.
You can't say no.
We can say it.
How can you say no?
We've seen what he's done. Because he throws the big.
Well, we know Dak. We know Dak last season could do that, but you don't know that Romo wasn't going to have a good season.
He's got a little bit of Blake Bortles in him, man. He's going to throw that pick.
Nah.
No. Tony Romo's issue isn't Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles doesn't know how to read defenses. That's his problem. He doesn't know how to make good decisions, and he tries too hard when he doesn't have the capability to make the effort work. Blake Bortles needed 3 years of development before he stepped on the field, but he got thrown into the fire. And this is what you get. This is why, a lot of people say start the rookies in there, get them in. The only way you get experience is getting in the game. No, the only way you get experience is by doing it. You don't have to be in a game. You need to work through development. So bring him in late in games, or bring him in when there's a minor injury and work through some of those live game situations. You don't throw him into the Wolves at the beginning. There's no benefit to that. If you were a shitty enough team the season before to get a quarterback number 1 or 2, you're not going to the Super Bowl next year. I'm sorry, but you're just not going to the Super Bowl next year. It's not. The world doesn't turn like that. So I'm just saying, it's not that I want to throw a shade on Dak. It's that we can't say that Romo wouldn't have done what Dak did because we couldn't see him do it. He never had a chance to come back when he was healthy. And obviously it was a situation. There's that commonality amongst like the unwritten rule: starting quarterbacks don't lose their job to injury. But he did. But because Dak came in and played well. Dak has struggled some this season. Clearly, Ezekiel Elliott has struggled some this season, on field and off field. And by the way, for those of you that are wondering, yes, Dak, Ezekiel Elliott is suspended. The suspension is back on. It's back on, and he cannot appeal this. He will not get an appeal hearing till the first part of December. Okay, that'll already be 4 games in. So his first game back, he's eligible for it's like the 16th of December or something like that. So it's already like five games suspension by then. So at this point, it's better off that he just take the full suspension. Just take the suspension, sit out 6 weeks, hide in Bin Laden's cave. Stay the hell out of sight. I'd say just sleep at the Cowboys facility. Just live there. Don't leave their grounds. Just stay there so you don't get your ass in trouble, more trouble. But we can't say. See that's a problem. There's so many variables involved with football. You can have a shitty quarterback and a solid defense. But we can't even say all these Dallas defenses were solid. We can't even say that they have a solid defense now. Last year, you can't even say they had a solid defense last year. They seemed to be working well, but it's because the offense was actually working well and eating up a lot of clock. So they weren't spending as much time on the field, and Lee seemed to be healthy for more time than he's ever been healthy in his career. I'm just saying, we can't say that he wouldn't have because we don't know because he didn't have an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? I thought about something about Tony Romo being a poor man's.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Hating.